Baroness Stroud.
My lords, this moment in time is deeply significant and goes far beyond the immediate legislation we are debating today. My concern is not so much that we have needed to take action to find a way through this difficult time. My concern is over some of the tools we have used to achieve the goal of public cooperation, and that the approach we have adopted over the last year could become the precedent of how we respond to similar health crises in the future. Rather than rely on the values that we know to be true, that define the success and prosperity of this great nation, of personal responsibility and trust, of keeping calm and respect, we rather chose to follow a path of a more authoritarian regime, of legislating for our restrictions on our liberties and an unrelenting campaign of fear to engender compliance. At many points when we could have appealed to the British people to work with us and make responsible decisions on the basis of a health response, we chose a legislative response. And at many moments when we could have asked for responsible decision-making, we've driven behaviour change with fear, and we're still doing it now. When SAGE's SBI group on behaviours at the start of the pandemic recommended the government deliberately use psychological operations techniques to change behaviour, the use of the media and advertising was advised to increase the personal sense of threat. SAGE thought this would be highly effective, though warned there could be negative spillover effects. Leading charities such as Mind were quick to warn the government of the mental health pandemic that would ensue if they continued to pursue such a course of action. Experts warned the use of fear to control behaviour is dangerous and unethical, especially when combined with curbs of freedom of speech. There was even Ofcom guidance which cautions its licensees against broadcasting statements that seek to question or undermine the advice of public health bodies on the coronavirus, or otherwise undermines people's trust in the advice of mainstream sources of information about the disease, which led to an absence of discussion and a daily broadcast diet of terrifying stories to achieve public compliance. But the public is all too aware of when there is a real threat, and they take the steps that are necessary to change their behaviour. You can see this from the mobility data, which changes as the number of hospitalisations and deaths gradually mount. But how we go through a crisis is as important as getting to the other side of a crisis. The best way to protect the public from harm is to allow scientists, experts, journalists, and others to vigorously challenge the government and public authorities without the threat of broadcasters being sanctioned by the state regulator if those views happen not to accord with the current government position. The public are sensible. My lords, the torrent of fear with which we have posed the British people has been devastating for mental health, but it is our children I am most concerned about. The statistics here are heartbreaking. Google searches for panic attacks in the UK have reached record highs. The NHS's own data suggests lockdown has led to a 50% rise in children with mental health problems. The Times reports there's been a surge in tics and Tourette's amongst teenage girls. Domestic violence against children has doubled and surged amongst adults. This strategy of fear and legislative control cannot continue.